Welcome to New Thought Deep Dive. Each week, we dive into a refresher on New Thought spiritual ideas that leave you thinking. Everything about this podcast, from the intro to the script and the presenters, is generated by AI. For more information, please visit newthoughtnexus.net.
Imagine looking at a terrifying pile of past due bills, staring at the numbers, and realizing that the paper, the ink, and honestly, even the absolute panic you feel, it's all literally just a shadow.
Yeah, which is an incredibly disruptive concept to accept right out of the gate.
Oh, totally, because it has no actual substance, right? It's just a lagging indicator of something else entirely. So today, we are tearing down the illusion of lack.
And, we are so completely conditioned to measure our lives by that external bottom line. We pull up a spreadsheet, we look at the bank account, and we just let those binary numbers dictate our entire internal state.
We really do. But we're stepping into a completely different landscape today. So for everyone joining us, especially the students embarking on week 1 of the course Abundance, the Spiritual Path to True Freedom, welcome to this deep dive.
Yes, welcome. It's such a great journey to be on.
Our mission today is to explore the source material for the foundation of inner freedom. And the ultimate goal here is to lay an unshakable spiritual foundation. We're gently clearing away the dense, limiting beliefs to prepare the soil of your mind, before we even attempt to change a single thing in your outside world.
Right. And that sequence, doing the inside work first, is really the most crucial part of this entire week.
Because otherwise it just falls apart.
Exactly. I mean, if you try to build financial growth or even just personal peace on a foundational baseline of lack, the structure will eventually collapse under its own weight. The internal soil just has to be cultivated first.
So let's start with the vocabulary the text insists we use, because I feel like it really sets the tone for everything. Usually we hear the word prosperity and we immediately think of the spreadsheet.
Right, the bank balance.
Yeah. We think of a seasonal profit or a raise at work or a lucky windfall. But the material demands we actually abandon that word and focus on abundance.
Well, because prosperity is often just a temporary external effect.
Yeah.
It can fluctuate.
Right.
It can be lost just as quickly as it's gained because it relies entirely on outside conditions.
Which are always changing.
Exactly. But abundance, however, is framed in the material as our natural spiritual inheritance. The text treats it as what they call an ontological necessity.
Okay, let's unpack that term, ontological necessity, because that sounds like something straight out of a graduate philosophy seminar. We have students who are brand new to this, so let's keep it simple.
Fair enough, yeah. To put it functionally, think of an oak tree. An oak tree literally cannot be an oak tree without soil, sunlight, and water.
Right, it would just die.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Those aren't luxuries for the tree, they are absolute necessities for its existence. Similarly, the text argues that your soul literally cannot fulfill its function without the resource of abundance.
Oh, wow. So wanting things isn't bad.
Not at all. The desire for a richer, freer life isn't about greed. It's a fundamental spiritual requirement for the full, unrestricted expression of who you are.
That honestly reframes the entire concept of ambition for me because, we carry so much cultural guilt around wanting more, right? As if desiring a better life means we're somehow taking something away from someone else.
Which is a huge misconception.
But if desire is just possibility-seeking expression, if it's the exact same urge that makes a plant grow toward the sun, then wanting more is actually just life-seeking fuller expression through us.
That's a perfect way to put it. And to actually participate in that expression, we have to completely invert our understanding of cause and effect. We have to move away from what the text identifies as the outside-in fallacy.
The outside-in fallacy, that's the societal conditioning that teaches us we're these fragile creatures just constantly reacting to the weather of the world.
Yes, like the news announces a recession, so we must immediately adopt a posture of fear.
Or a client cancels a contract, so our inherent worth somehow decreases.
Right, it's this deeply ingrained belief that we are unthinking reactors entirely at the mercy of external elements. But the text demands we adopt the inside-out truth instead.
Meaning everything starts internally.
Exactly. The fundamental premise of abundance is that it is strictly an inside job. Life is lived from the center out to the circumference. not the other way around.
Okay, I understand that theory, but let me play the skeptic for a second because I know the students are going to face this immediately.
Here, go for it.
It's incredibly difficult not to react when an unexpected medical bill arrives or, the economy takes a massive downturn or a manager threatens your job. My nervous system is going to react to that threat.
Oh, of course it is. That's human.
Right. So how does the text bridge the gap between this high-minded, unbothered frequency and the very real panic of everyday life? Are we just supposed to live in denial?
No. No, it isn't about ignoring reality at all. It's about understanding how reality is mechanically constructed. The text introduces this idea called the law of consciousness.
Okay, break that down for us.
So you essentially function as a living magnet. You are perpetually drawing to yourself the circumstances and conditions that align with your most frequent dominant thoughts.
So my thoughts are pulling these things in.
Exactly. So that unexpected bill or that hostile manager, those are effects. Your physical reality is simply the lagging indicator of your subconscious programming.
The lagging indicator. Okay, wait. So by the time I'm looking at the empty bank account, the actual cause happened months or maybe even years ago in my own mind?
Yes, exactly. When we obsess over lack or panic over the news, we enter what's called a state of entropy.
Like in physics.
Just like in physics, entropy is an energetic breakdown, a state of disorder, friction, and limitation. Your mind literally scatters its creative power.
Oh, that makes so much sense. You feel exhausted when you're stressed.
Right. But when we anchor our minds in the truth of our inherent abundance, regardless of what that lagging indicator of the bank account says, we enter a state of syntropy.
Syntropy. Okay, let's dig into how that actually functions for the listener.
So syntropy is the innate drive toward higher organization, harmony, and effortless flow. It's a highly ordered state of energy. When you hold your mind in a state of syntropy, you stop fighting the external conditions.
You just kind of let go of the struggle.
Yeah, and opportunities start to appear with almost frictionless ease because your internal frequency is organized to receive them. But you have to set that internal dial first before the outside world changes.
The text actually offers a really fascinating application of this for the students. When you feel overwhelmed this week by a terrifying email or a piece of bad news, the challenge isn't to fix the outside problem immediately.
Which is what we usually try to do.
Right. We immediately panic and try to fix it. But the challenge is to pause, put your hand over your heart, recognize the external event as just a lagging indicator, and remind yourself that your supply proceeds from within.
It's a way of reclaiming your sovereignty. You're refusing to be a blind reactor to a shadow.
I love that. And doing that requires a profound understanding of the tools at your disposal, right? Because if life is an inside job, we really need to know the mechanics of our inner world.
We do. Which brings us to the architecture of the mind discussed in the sources. They break it down into 3 departments: the conscious, the subconscious, and the superconscious mind.
And understanding the interaction between these 3 is essentially the entire secret to directing the creative power of your thought.
Completely.
The sources use this great analogy about learning to type on a keyboard to explain this. Students, think about when you first learned to type. Your conscious mind, which the text calls the thinker, does all the heavy lifting.
Right, the sight method.
Exactly. You are staring at the keys, intensely willing your fingers to move to specific letters. It is entirely active and requires massive effort.
Because the conscious mind is the seat of your volition. It's the gatekeeper. It chooses the thoughts and plants the seeds, but it honestly has very limited processing power.
So then, once you practice enough, the subconscious mind, which they call the doer, takes over the automation. Suddenly, you're typing 100 words a minute while having a conversation about something else entirely.
Yeah, the hardware is just running the program in the background for you.
But here's where it gets dangerous, right? The subconscious mind is incredibly fertile, but it has absolutely no moral compass.
None at all. It is entirely neutral.
Well,
It's basically a mathematical executor. It does not argue with you, and it doesn't evaluate whether a thought is actually good for your life or highly destructive.
it just builds whatever you give it.
Exactly. It simply takes whatever seed the conscious mind plants and brings forth after its kind. If you feed it thoughts of poverty, it will automate poverty just as perfectly as it would automate wealth.
Let's talk about the mechanism of how that translates into the real world. Because if I consciously drill my mind with the fear of poverty, how does the subconscious actually automate that poverty? I mean, it's not magic, right?
No, it's not magic at all. It's cognitive filtering. If you program the subconscious with a fear of lack, It literally calibrates your attention to align with that lack.
Like it changes what you can actually see.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
In neurology, they refer to the reticular activating system. It's a network in your brain that filters out unnecessary information so you don't get overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
So if your subconscious is programmed for poverty, your brain will literally filter out a lucrative opportunity sitting right in front of you. You won't even perceive it because it doesn't match your internal code.
Wow.
Your subconscious just makes a habit of fear, and it becomes a governor on your life's speed.
The text actually calls this I can't-itis, which is sort of a funny term, but it's the internalized belief that you're limited by your age, your education, or your current financial state. You are essentially turning down the dimmer switch on your own capacity because you've coded your hardware for failure.
But the power is always present. The electricity is always on the wall. Your belief just determines how much of that power actually lights up the room.
Okay, so if the conscious mind is the programmer and the subconscious is the hardware blindly running the code, where does the underlying operating system come from? Like, how do we even know what a good program looks like?
That is where the third department comes in. The superconscious. The texts often refer to this as the Christ within. It's the perfect divine pattern of wholeness that exists as the foundational layer inside every single individual.
So it's like the pristine, uncorrupted code.
Exactly. The superconscious can never be sick, poor, or limited. It's the source of all original inspiration and intuition. And unlike the subconscious, it doesn't need to be trained or programmed.
It just already knows.
Right. It holds the perfect blueprint of your abundance. To access it, you just have to bypass the noisy programming of the conscious mind by quieting down, entering the inner silence, and simply listening.
Okay, so we have the architecture down. We are the gatekeepers, planting seeds in the neutral hardware of the subconscious and drawing perfect inspiration from the superconscious layer. But we have to address the actual material we are working with here.
Yes, the substance.
Right. If a thought eventually produces a physical thing in the real world, what is that thing actually made of before it solidifies?
This is perhaps the most profound concept in the first week's material. The universe is not just empty space waiting to be populated. The text explains that all space is filled with an invisible, omnipresent energy called divine substance.
It sounds a bit abstract, I know. But it actually aligns perfectly with modern quantum physics. We used to think of the universe through a Newtonian lens.
Oh.
You know, a bunch of separate physical objects just floating in an empty vacuum.
But now we understand it as a unified quantum field of potentiality.
Exactly. And the text was describing this long before quantum mechanics popularized the idea. Divine substance is the raw material, the ever-present supply of all physical form.
And the implication of its omnipresence is massive. It means the supply you were seeking is already exactly where you are. You don't have to travel to find it. You just have to recognize it and mold it.
The material uses an analogy about bringing different size containers to the edge of the ocean. The ocean represents this divine substance. But I think a more modern analogy really drives this home for the students.
I'd love to hear it.
It's like trying to download a terabyte of incredibly valuable data onto a 10 gigabyte hard drive. The universe has the data. The bandwidth is infinite. The network is perfectly stable. But your internal hardware will literally crash if you haven't formatted it to hold that file size.
That is brilliant. That is the law of correspondence in action. The size of the file you can download is dictated entirely by your deep internal beliefs about what you can hold and what you deserve.
So that's what the text means when it refers to building a mental equivalent.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
if you want a life of incredible financial freedom and creative output, but internally you maintain what the text calls a $10 consciousness, rooted in fear, the universe simply cannot complete the download.
Because the mold isn't big enough to hold it.
Right. The law is mechanical.
Yeah.
The substance is neutral and will effortlessly fill the mold you provide, but it will not force more into your life than your mental equivalent can contain. It's not a punishing universe withholding a gift. It's just a structural impossibility.
Man, that puts the responsibility entirely back on us. If I'm feeling unworthy, I'm literally firewalling my own network. I'm blocking the flow. So how do we format the hard drive to hold a terabyte? How do we stretch that mental equivalent?
The text prescribes the practice of faith.
Hmm.
But we have to be very careful with that word because culturally, faith is often associated with begging or pleading with a distant deity for a favor.
Right, like hoping you get picked in a lottery.
Precisely what it is not.
Yeah.
In this spiritual framework, faith is a joyful expectancy.
Joyful expectancy.
Yes, it's the absolute calm conviction that the substance is already present and is actively taking the form of your desire right now. It has the quiet certainty of knowing the download is already in progress.
Okay, I am tracking the logic. The quantum field of divine substance is everywhere. We expand our mental equivalent through joyful expectancy to receive it. But let's look at the friction of physical reality again.
Back to the bills on the table.
Exactly. I'm looking at my 10-gigabyte hard drive, and I'm looking at an eviction notice on my front door. That doesn't feel like a missing download. It feels like a very concrete, terrifying reality of poverty. How does the text expect a student to view that lack as an illusion, like it claims?
This is the hurdle that the rational mind struggles with the most. To understand how lack is an illusion, the text uses the analogy of light and shadow.
Okay, so imagine a shadow cast on a wall in a dark room. It has a shape. It can look super intimidating, but it isn't a physical object with its own molecular structure. It is strictly the absence of light.
Right.
You cannot take a broom and sweep a shadow out the door. You cannot fight it with your fists.
Because fighting a shadow assumes it has power of its own. Belief in poverty, or the belief that there just isn't enough to go around, is simply a shadow cast by limited thinking. It is merely the absence of the awareness of divine substance.
If you try to fight the shadow, like if you work 80 hours a week purely out of terror that you'll starve, you are operating in what the material calls atom consciousness.
And atom consciousness is the belief that we are cursed to live by the sweat of our face. It's this deeply ingrained survival mechanism that views the world as a giant battleground where everyone is just fighting for a tiny slice of a finite pie.
Which is honestly the entire foundation of the modern corporate world. It's a zero-sum game. If I get the promotion, you have to lose. If my company takes market share, yours has to go bankrupt.
And it is incredibly exhausting.
So exhausting.
It's exhausting because it's built on the false premise of the competitive mind. The competitive mind fundamentally believes resources are scarce. But the text invites us to step into the creative mind.
And the creative mind recognizes that the underlying substance is infinite.
Exactly. Abundance isn't a physical prize you have to wrestle away from someone else. It isn't a fixed amount of currency sitting in a vault somewhere.
Which means God or the universe cannot supply lack, because lack doesn't actually exist in the ultimate reality. It's just a shadow.
Right.
You don't fight poverty directly. You turn on the light of abundance consciousness, and the shadow naturally ceases to exist.
You step into a peaceful state of mind right now, recognizing that the substance to build what you need is already surrounding you, just waiting for the mold of your thought.
This is so powerful. Let's synthesize all of this for you, the listener, as you dive into week 1. We are clearing the soil and formatting the hard drive. First, physical reality is a lagging indicator. Stop trying to force the outside world to change through sheer panic and start examining your internal programming.
Second, your mind is a literal machine. Your conscious volition plants the seeds, and your subconscious reticular activating system perfectly automates those seeds into your reality by filtering your perception.
Third, you are immersed in an infinite quantum field of divine substance. It's the raw material of everything, just waiting for your mental equivalent to give it form.
And fourth, the appearance of lack is a shadow. Do not waste your energy fighting the shadow. Turn on the light of your innate superconscious divinity.
So your exploration for this week is to actively catch yourself when you're running a $10 consciousness program. When you feel the friction of the competitive mind telling you to panic, just pause. Practice joyful expectancy. Stretch the capacity of your mental container.
And as you move through this foundational week, I want to leave you with a larger philosophical question to ponder. We've established that the subconscious perfectly automates whatever we consistently feed it. We know that the field of divine substance is neutral, limitless, and responds strictly to our mental equivalents.
Meaning, we hold the keys to the entire mechanism.
We do. So imagine the macro implication here. What would happen to the world's economy if an entire society simultaneously decided to upgrade their mental thimbles to oil tankers?
Oh, wow.
If millions of people suddenly shifted away from the competitive atom consciousness of scarcity and stepped fully into the creative mind? Would our entire global structure of hoarding, competition, and economic anxiety simply collapse?
Would we give birth to a completely new, frictionless reality for the human race just by realizing the pie is infinite? It's a staggering thought. What if the only thing maintaining global scarcity is our collective agreement to keep staring at the shadow?
It's definitely something to think about.
Chew on that as you format your hard drives this week. We will see you next time as we dive into week 2.